your capacity to enjoy your life is not linear. It peaks, it declines. The go-go years are finite, and then they're gone. A dollar deployed during those years returns something that $1.82 simply cannot. And why wouldn't you want to enjoy the memory for longer? Hello friends, this is Tyler Gardner welcoming you to another episode of your Money Guide on the Side, where it is my job to simplify what seems complex, add nuance to what seems simple, and learn from and alongside some of the brightest minds in money, finance, and investing. So let's get started and get you one step closer to where you need to be. Before we get into today's episode, I am genuinely thrilled to share this with you. After 3 years of listening to your questions and locking myself in a room to answer as many of them as I can, I decided it would be slightly more efficient to write a book. So I did. It's called Real Wealth, published by Norton, out December 6th of this year. Yeah, the kid whose parents thought he might be illiterate until he was 21, and whose high school English teachers passed him on the condition he never took another English class, and I'm dang proud of how it turned out and what I believe it can and will do for all of you. Here are 3 quick reasons to pre-order right now, and I'll tell you exactly how at the end. 1, you'll actually finish this book. I know, low bar, except it really isn't. I've spent 2 decades watching people's eyes go blank the moment I said asset allocation. I took that personally. This is my response. You know the look, and I refuse to be the cause of it. Number 2, the number 1 comment I get thousands of times is, you left something out. You're right. I'm making 60-second videos about topics that deserve 60 minutes. This is my answer, everything in one place, no countdown clock, no algorithm cutting me off. And number 3, what I'm most excited about, every month through December, I'll be releasing an exclusive pre-order incentive, and April's might already be my favorite. Pre-order this month and you're automatically in for a free 2-hour live event on Wednesday, May 6th. Where I'll be expanding on some of the ideas present in the book and answering some of your most commonly asked practical and theoretical investing questions. This will be exclusively for people who pre-order. Here's all you need to do. Go to tylergardner.com, pre-order the book, then click the button on the page that says you've pre-ordered. 2 minutes, you're in, and I genuinely cannot wait to do this with all of you. Real Wealth, December 6th. Your future self will appreciate having it all in one place. And now, on with the show. All right, welcome back to your Money Guide on the Side. I'm Tyler Gardner, and today we're talking about one of the most Googled, most argued about, most deeply personal financial decisions you're ever going to make. When to take Social Security. Specifically, and I want to be upfront about where I'm coming down today. We're going to make a serious, data-backed, intellectually honest case for taking it at 62, which is the earliest you can take it, which is also the answer that approximately every financial planning textbook and every financial planner will tell you is 100% wrong. And there's nothing I love more than being told I'm wrong by a textbook and by traditional financial advice. Game on. Let's roll. Now, I'm not going to tell you that taking it at 62 is the answer for you. That's not how this show works, and it's not how any of my content works. What I'm going to do is give you the real math, the break-even math that the textbooks actually agree on, but don't always present clearly, and then give you 6 questions to ask yourself that are worth more than most spreadsheets I've ever come across. Because this decision, at its core, isn't a math problem. It's a life problem that has some math attached to it. We're also going to spend some time talking through some ideas presented by Bill Perkins from his book Die with Zero. And if you haven't read it, you should. And if you haven't checked out my interview with Bill from a few months back, you also should. I recommend that book roughly every 3rd episode because it genuinely is one of the most clarifying things I've read in 20 years of thinking, writing, reading, and talking about money. And crucially, because I have made this mistake in past episodes, and my inbox reminded me of it immediately, we're going to talk about 2 things, that most Social Security conversations completely skip over: A, what happens to your health care if you retire at 62, and B, what happens to your Social Security benefit if you take it early but you're still working. Both of these can completely change the numbers and your decision. Both of them deserve their own section, thus both of them are going to get one. And at the end of today's episode, I'll even leave you with a cheat sheet, an actual, usable, write this down cheat sheet. I'll also put it in this week's newsletter as well, which you can sign up for along with 175,000 other loyal and awesome readers at tylergardner.com. And while you're at it, a very familiar ask: if you have found this show helpful in any way or learned anything about your financial future, please consider leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps the show grow, it helps new listeners find it, and we all know we would love to share this information with even more people. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with a brief introduction to what Social Security actually is. I promise I'll make it as brief as I can. But I find that a surprising number of people don't fully understand the mechanics of Social Security, and the mechanics matter for the decision. Social Security is, at its core, a longevity insurance program. You paid into it your entire working life. In exchange, the government promises to pay you a monthly benefit for the rest of your life, however long that turns out to be. If you live to 72, you collect for however many years you started. If you live to 102, you collect for however many years since you started. The monthly check doesn't stop, at least as of the date of this recording. The question is purely, when do you start the check? And here are the three numbers I think you need to know. 62 is the earliest you can claim. Your benefit will be permanently reduced, roughly by about 25 to 30% below your full benefit, depending on your birth year. 67 is full retirement age for most people born after 1960. This is what the Social Security Administration considers your full benefit, the baseline number. And 70 is the maximum. Every year you delay past full retirement age, your benefit grows by about 8%. At 70, you've maxed that out. There's no benefit to waiting longer than 70. None. Zero. The government is not going to reward you for your patience past that point. So, in round numbers, and yours will differ based on your earnings history, which you can find at ssa.gov by creating an account today, imagine your full retirement age benefit is $2,000 a month. If you took it at 62, you'd get roughly $1,400 a month. At 67, you'd get the full $2,000, and at 70, you'd get roughly $2,480. Same person, same lifetime of contributions, just different starting dates. Now, here's the question everyone asks immediately. Which one is going to make me the most money? And the answer is, it depends entirely on how long you live, which is the part nobody knows, which is what makes this interesting and leaves us wondering if there actually is a right or wrong answer here. Now we'll get into what's called the break-even math. I'm going to keep this simple because the point isn't to dazzle you with arithmetic. It's to give you one number that actually matters. The break-even point is the age at which the strategy of waiting surpasses the strategy of taking early. Before the break-even point, taking early wins. After it, waiting wins. Let's look at taking at 62 versus 67. If you take at 62, let's say you collect that $1,400 a month starting immediately. If you wait until 67, you collect $2,000 a month, but you've given up 5 years of checks to get there. 5 years of $1,400 monthly checks is $84,000 in your pocket before the person who waited collects a single dollar. The person who waited then collects $600 more per month, but to break even, they need to make up that $84,000 gap at $600 a month. That takes 140 months, about 11 and a half years. Add that to age 67, and you get your break-even point to be roughly between the ages of 78 and 79. Before 78 and 79, the person who took at 62 came out ahead. After 78-79, the person who waited wins, and wins by an increasing margin for every year they keep going. Now let's look at taking at 62 versus 70. Same exercise, taking at 62 versus waiting until 70, that's 8 years of checks foregone, totaling roughly $134,000 gap. The monthly difference is about $1,080. That $134,000 gap at $1,080 a month takes about 124 months. That's a little over 10 years. Add that to age 70, and your break even is roughly age 80 to 81. Now, here's the number the textbook puts in at this point. The average life expectancy for a relatively healthy 62-year-old American man is approximately 82. For a relatively healthy woman, approximately 85. So on pure expected value math, if you're perfectly average, waiting is the marginally better bet, particularly for women who statistically have more years on the other side of that break-even point. And the textbook stops there and concludes, therefore, you should wait until 70. Case closed. Thanks for coming. Tyler's a ding-dong. But here's what the textbook continues to leave out, which is almost everything to me that actually matters. The expected value calculation assumes that $1 at 82 is worth the same to you as $1 at 62. And I would like to submit, my friends, respectfully but firmly, that it is not even close. This episode is brought to you by Copilot Money. I have a group chat with 4 of my closest friends from my finance days. Between the 5 of us, we have decades of experience managing other people's money, multiple licenses, and, I say this with love, a genuinely embarrassing amount of opinions about expense ratios. These are not people who download budgeting apps. These are people who tend to mock budgeting apps. Yet, every single one of them uses Copilot Money, unprompted, voluntarily. One of them texted me last month just to say, and I quote, "I finally feel like my financial life is in one place," from a guy who used to manage 8-figure portfolios. Here's why people who actually know money keep landing on this one. It tracks your spending, net worth, investments, savings goals, and budgets in one place. And it's genuinely beautiful to look at, which shouldn't matter, but absolutely does when you're trying to build a habit. It automatically categorizes transactions, which means you'll stop pretending you'll sort your bank statements this weekend. It tracks your subscriptions, so you'll finally find that streaming service you forgot you had, and the gym membership you've been emotionally lying to yourself about since February. It works across iPhone, iPad, Mac, and their web app, and they don't sell your data. It's the only personal finance app to win an Apple Editor's Choice Award, was a finalist for the Apple Design Awards, and holds a 4.8-star rating from over 25,000 reviews. Which means it's not just the finance nerds in my group chat, it's a lot of regular people who downloaded it and never deleted it. That is genuinely the hardest thing to accomplish in this category. Go to try.copilot.money/Tyler and use code Tyler2 to get 2 free months of Copilot Money. That's try.copilot.money/Tyler using code Tyler2, that's TYLER, and the number 2. This episode is brought to you by LMNT, which, as someone who has recommended index funds for 15 years, might still be the best value proposition I've ever encountered. I just got back from a 3.5-mile hike through the Vermont woods with my bloodhound, and I'm literally drinking a slim and salty 12-ounce can right now as I record this. That's how far gone I am. LMNT has a new 12-ounce sparkling line. Pineapple salt, lemonade salt, black cherry salt, orange salt, all delicious. Slim cans built for the in-between moments, not just post-workout. The dog walk, the long afternoon of content creation, the part of the day where you'd normally reach for something you'd regret. That's where these live, and they're genuinely perfect for it. Here's what I love about who else is also on board. We're talking Navy SEAL teams, Stanford neuroscientists, Olympic athletes, functional nutritionists, and, my personal favorite category, everyday people who just want to stop feeling like a houseplant that forgot to water itself. There's a reason LMNT is the hydration partner to Team USA weightlifting. It's not marketing. This stuff works. LMNT is a zero-sugar electrolyte drink mix with 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 60 milligrams magnesium. No crash, no liquid candy, no ingredient list that requires a chemistry degree. For years, I had mid-afternoon headaches, brain fog, fatigue, poor sleep, and muscle cramps. And only recently did I realize it was because of lack of electrolytes. LMNT has literally solved my post-workouts and my afternoons, and most people are, like me, walking around mildly dehydrated and blaming it on everything else. My favorite flavor, as some of you know, is mango chili, but watermelon salt is making a solid argument recently to take the top spot. LMNT is now offering a free sample pack with any purchase, so go to drinklmnt.com/Tyler. That's drinklmnt.com/Tyler, and trust me on the mango chili and the watermelon salt. Bill Perkins wrote a book called Die with Zero, and the central argument is simple enough to fit on a napkin. The goal of financial planning should not be to die with the most money. It should be to deploy your money at the moments in your life when you can get the most relative value from it. And those moments are not uniformly distributed across your lifespan. As an example, he suggests you might choose to spend more on fast-paced physical adventures and activities and hobbies in your 30s and 40s, knowing that your body might slow down in your 50s and 60s. In similar fashion, there's a framework that I love from the retirement planning world. This is the 3 phases of retirement. We start out with the go-go years. This is early retirement. You're hopefully healthy, mobile, energetic. You're going to hike the thing, take the trip, play with the grandkids on the floor, eat the meal. Your capacity for experience is high. Next, we have the slow-go years, mid-retirement. Things start to slow down. You're still going to travel, but probably not the backpacking version, and the money you spend here still buys good experiences, but the menu is slightly shorter. Finally, we have the no-go years. This is late retirement. Your world gets smaller, medical expenses start to add up, and the money you spend here is largely on comfort and care. Important, but a different kind of spending than the go-go years. Here is Perkins' point, and it's a sharp one, is that most traditional financial planning optimizes for accumulation without thinking carefully about which phase the money is actually going to be spent in. You save and delay and optimize, and then you have this enormous pile of cash at 78, and your knees hurt, and your best friend died last year, and the trip to Patagonia that was always someday is no longer physically possible. And even if it were, you might just not want to go anymore. He calls this the die with zero principle. Don't leave value on the table. Don't save the good china for the company that never comes. Now, let's apply this to Social Security. The $84,000 you leave on the table by waiting from 62 to 67, those aren't abstract dollars. Those are dollars available during your early to mid-60s, which for most people are go-go years, active years, the years when $1,400 a month buys you actual experiences, not just additional zeros in a brokerage account you'll never fully spend. So the question isn't just which strategy produces more lifetime income in a spreadsheet. The question is, when is this money worth the most to you? $1 at 63 that funds a month in Portugal is worth more experientially, memorably, meaningfully than $1 at 83 that funds a frickin' copay. And I double dog dare you to disagree with me on that. I don't think anyone would argue with the logic. I get it, you still have to pay for things, but they're not as important philosophically. And that's the point. This isn't even math. It's philosophy. And I'd argue it's way, way more important than the math. Okay, we're going to stop here because we have just spent several minutes building a case for retiring at 62 and taking Social Security early, and I have not yet mentioned the single largest practical obstacle to doing that: healthcare. Medicare, the federal health insurance program for retirees, does not start until age 65. Not 62, not 63, not 64 and 11 months. 65. Which means that if you retire at 62 and you're currently getting your health insurance through your employer, you have a 3-year gap during which you are responsible for finding and funding your own health coverage. And I want to be very honest with you about what that gap can cost, because I've watched people make the retire at 62 decision in complete ignorance of this number and then experience genuine financial shock when they actually price it out. Let's talk about your options, and I'll try to get as specific as possible. Option 1, you could use COBRA. COBRA lets you continue your employer's health insurance plan after you leave your job, but you pay the full premium, including the portion your employer was previously covering. The average employer-sponsored family plan costs about $23,000 a year in total premiums. Your employer was probably paying 70 to 80% of that. On COBRA, you pay all of it, plus about a 2% administrative fee. That's potentially $1,800 to $2,000 a month just for health insurance for a family. COBRA also only lasts 18 months, so it doesn't even bridge the full 3-year gap to Medicare. So we move to option 2, ACA Marketplace Plans. The Affordable Care Act Marketplace at healthcare.gov is where most early retirees end up, and it is genuinely more manageable than COBRA for many people. The key is that ACA subsidies are usually based on your income. If your income in retirement is relatively modest, which for many people it tends to be in the early years after we lose our typical income, you may qualify for significant subsidies that bring your premiums down substantially. The catch, if you have significant retirement account withdrawals, investment income, or Social Security income that pushes your modified adjusted gross income above roughly 400% of the federal poverty level, those subsidies shrink or disappear. As these numbers change annually, you can verify the current numbers at healthcare.gov. The planning opportunity here, and it's real, the years between 62 and 65, before Medicare and potentially before large retirement account withdrawals, can be a window of relatively lower income, which means relatively higher ACA subsidies. Some early retirees manage this window quite deliberately and end up paying very little for coverage, but it requires planning, not just hoping. And speaking of hoping, brings us to option 3, your spouse's employer's plan. If your spouse is still working and has employer-sponsored insurance, this is almost always the best option. Get on their plan. It's typically far cheaper than anything you'd find on the open market, and it bridges that gap cleanly. So, figure out which one of you likes your job more and go from there. I'm only half kidding. Option 4, find part-time work with health benefits. Some people in this gap period work part-time specifically for the benefits. Starbucks has been famous for offering health insurance to part-time employees. Costco, UPS, and some school districts. You're not working because you need the income, you're working because the insurance is worth more than the paycheck. This is a legitimate strategy, and more people should at least know about it, even if you don't exactly want to spend your early 60s making orange mocha frappuccinos or checking people's receipts before they leave Costco. Option 5, HSA subsidies. If you have a high deductible health plan, you might be eligible for a health savings account. If you are, I cannot stress this enough, open it. Fund the account annually as soon as you can. Max it out if you can. In 2026, you can put in $8,750 for a family, $4,400 if you're single. Contributions are tax deductible. Investments can grow tax-free, and withdrawals are tax-free so long as spent 100% on medical expenses. This account is pure freaking gold, and I'm currently maxing out mine so I can make sure to cover this gap early and plan accordingly. The bottom line on healthcare: if you're seriously considering retiring at 62, you need to price out your health insurance situation before you make the Social Security decision. For some people, this is manageable cost that changes the math only slightly. For others, particularly those who are between ACA subsidy thresholds and too young for Medicare, This cost is substantial enough to materially affect whether early retirement is financially viable at all. Do not discover this number after you've already retired. Discover it today. So here's your rough planning estimate. Budget anywhere from $500 to $2,000 per month per person for health insurance during the gap years, depending on your income level and what coverage options are available to you. That's a wide range intentionally because the actual number varies enormously based on your situation. But definitely go get your actual quote before you make any decisions. This episode is brought to you by Anthropic. And I'll be transparent. This ad comes straight from the heart because Claude is genuinely my most used thinking partner, strategist, and the only collaborator who doesn't judge me for working at midnight, questioning every life choice that led me to voluntarily write about Roth conversions for fun. Claude is the AI for minds that don't stop at good enough. It's the collaborator that actually understands your entire workflow and thinks with you. Whether you're debugging code at midnight or strategizing your next business move, Claude extends your thinking to tackle the problems that matter. But here's the moment that actually got me. I wanted to create 9 complete webinar decks to complement my upcoming book launch. I wanted 25 slides each, fully branded, cohesive across all 9 sessions. So I gave Claude my content outline, my brand palette, and my vision. 30 minutes later, I had all 9 decks ready to present. What would have taken at least a week of back and forth with a designer was done in a span of minutes before my coffee even got cold. I've been on Claude Max for about 2 months, and it's the best long-form AI I've used, hands down, specifically because it holds context without hallucinating some statistic that makes you look like a complete ding-dong on the internet. And as someone with 4 million followers and a book publisher, I cannot overstate how much that matters. So if you're a creator, writer, or just someone ready to tackle bigger problems, get started with Claude today at claude.ai/Tyler. That's claude.ai/Tyler, and check out Claude Pro, which includes access to all of the features mentioned in today's episode. That's claude.ai/Tyler. Moving on to what happens if you take it early and keep working. This is the other section I promised, and it is one of the most misunderstood rules in the entire Social Security system. I get questions about this constantly, and the answer surprises almost everyone who hears it. Here's the question. Can you take Social Security at 62 and still work? The answer is absolutely, with a significant catch that disappears later. The Social Security Administration has something called the earnings test, and here's how it works. If you are under full retirement age, so under 67 for most people, and you collect Social Security while still working, your benefit is reduced if your earnings exceed a certain threshold. In 2026, that threshold is approximately $24,480 per year, and for every $2 you earn above that limit, Social Security withholds $1 of your benefit. So let's make that concrete. Say you're 63, collecting $1,400 a month in Social Security, and you're still working part-time, earning $40,000 a year. That's $15,520 above the earnings limit. Social Security withholds $1 for every $2 over, so they withhold $7,760 for the year. That's about $647 a month withheld from your $1,400 monthly check. You'd net about $753 a month from Social Security while working, which would obviously change your break-even math substantially. In the year you reach full retirement age, the rules get more lenient. The threshold now jumps to roughly $65,160 in 2026, and you only lose $1 for every $3 above that limit, just for the months before your birthday. And then, on the day you hit full retirement age, the earnings test disappears entirely. You can earn any amount and collect your full Social Security benefit simultaneously, zero penalty. Now, here's the part that everyone misses and that genuinely changes how you should think about this. The withheld benefits aren't gone. They do come back. When you reach full retirement age, the SSA recalculates your benefit to credit you for the months that were withheld. Your monthly benefit goes up permanently to reflect those withheld months. So the money wasn't confiscated, it was deferred. So if you had a year where $7,760 was withheld, roughly 6 months of your benefit, the SSA adds those months back and increases your monthly check at full retirement age accordingly. This means the earnings test is less of a penalty and more of a temporary deferral, which changes how you should think about the take at 62 while working strategy considerably. So, who does this affect? If you're planning to take Social Security at 62 and immediately stop working, no earnings test, no problem, collect your check. If you're planning to take at 62 but continue working full-time at a meaningful salary, you will most likely have most or all of your benefit withheld anyway, temporarily. You may want to simply wait to claim until you've actually reduced your income, because the mechanics of the earnings test make early claiming less useful while you're still earning substantially. If you're planning to work part-time at modest income, under that $24,000 threshold, the earnings test doesn't affect you at all. Collect and work freely. The reason I continue to say I'll take at 62 is I don't plan on making substantial income after 62, but you never know. I might, and it might therefore change my thinking. Here's the practical takeaway. Taking Social Security at 62 while earning a full-time salary is mostly pointless. The benefit will be largely or entirely withheld, and you're just creating paperwork and headaches. The strategy makes most sense when you've actually reduced your working income, either retired, part-time under the threshold, or in the limited work situation where the insurance math we just talked about drives your decision. Verify the current earnings test limits at ssa.gov. They adjust annually for inflation, and the exact number changes year to year. Okay, with all of that said and considered, I want to offer you a highly practical framework and a series of questions to ask yourself so you can always figure out what works best for you and your family. I'm going to give you 6 questions to sit with, and I want you to write them down. Again, the newsletter has all of them in shorter form if you'd rather check that out at tylergardner.com, but I'll give them to you right here. Question 1. What does your health look like honestly? The break-even math assumes average life expectancy. If your health history and your family history suggest you're likely to be below average, and we all know this about ourselves better than we admit, the math shifts dramatically. Every year below that break-even point that you don't collect is money you're never going to see. Conversely, if you come from a family of people who are irritatingly healthy into their 90s and playing pickleball down at the old club, waiting might make more sense. The longer you expect to live, the more those higher monthly checks add up. So ask yourself, setting aside wishful thinking, what does my realistic health picture look like? And honestly, I'd encourage you to go to an actuarial website or estimator and enter some very brief info on you, your health, your family, and just have it give you a number. I know nobody wants to think about when they're going to die, but in the absence of actually knowing, it does actually help to just have a number. For example, as of today, my number is 83, and I actually am using that to plan out my financial future. Question 2. What does your healthcare gap look like? Given all we covered above, if you retire at 62, how are you covering health insurance until Medicare at 65? What's it going to cost? Have you actually priced it out? Do you have a health savings account or taxable brokerage account to help fund those before you might want to tap into 401ks or IRAs? If the answer is, my spouse has coverage and I'm going on their plan, great. Check this box and move along. If the answer is, I'm not sure, stop. Go find out, because this number can easily be $2,000 a month, which changes the entire financial picture of early retirement. It is not a footnote, it is a central variable. Question 3. Are you still working? And if so, how much are you earning? Given the earnings test, if you're still working full-time, taking Social Security at 62 is largely going to be withheld anyway. The question of when to claim is really a question of when you plan to actually reduce your earned income. If you're working part-time under the threshold, roughly $24,000 a year, the earnings test doesn't affect you, collect freely. And if you're not working at all, no earnings test issue, collect. Question number 4. Do you need this income now, or do you have other resources? If you need the income, you've retired, your savings aren't sufficient, you have expenses, this decision is largely made. Take it. $1,400 a month that exists is better than $2,000 a month that requires you to deplete your savings in the meantime. Or if you have substantial retirement savings, taking Social Security early and letting those savings continue to compound is potentially a very smart strategy. You're using the government's money to fund your life while your money grows. That's exactly what I want to do, especially when you add the importance of how much more highly weighted dollars are at 62 than they are at 83. And I can spend those now on better experiences and live longer with those memories intact. Again, that's just me. Question 5. What does your spouse's situation look like? If you're the higher earner in the household, your claiming decision also affects your spouse's survivor benefit, the check they'll receive after you're gone. A reduced benefit at 62 means a permanently reduced survivor benefit potentially paid for 20 or more years. There goes the break-even math. This is the strongest argument for the higher earner to wait. Not for themselves, for the person they love who may be collecting that check long after they're gone. And question 6, what specifically do you want to do with the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years? This is the Bill Perkins question and the financial reality check in one. Answer the first part specifically. Not travel more, but what exact activities, when, and roughly at what cost. If you can name it, it has real value. Then answer that second part honestly. If you take early and you're 92, is your financial foundation solid enough that the reduced monthly benefit doesn't create an additional hardship in your no-go years? Social Security is doing what portion of the work in your late life budget? Is there a plan for that? Both of these questions need really good answers before you commit. And as promised, here is your 2-minute summary cheat sheet. The 3 numbers to remember: 62, that's where you'd get about 75% of the full benefit; 67, 100% of the full benefit; 70, about 124% of the full benefit. Your actual numbers can be found at ssa.gov/myaccount. It's free. Shows your real projected benefit at every claiming age. I've done this, I have an account, and it's truly helpful. Break-even benchmarks, 62 versus 67. Your break-even age is going to be around 78 or 79. 62 versus 70, break-even age around 80 to 81. Before those ages, early claiming wins. After them, waiting wins, but only if you consider $1 at 85 to be worth the same as $1 at 62. Just saying. Then the healthcare gap. Medicare starts at 65, not 62. So if you are retiring at 62, price out COBRA, ACA Marketplace, check your spouse's plan, or consider part-time for benefits options before you decide to take it. Budget $500 to $2,000 a month per person depending on income and plan. Get your actual quote at healthcare.gov. And remember the earnings test. I won't go over those numbers again because they change annually, and you can find them at ssa.gov. And once again, the 6 questions you need to ask yourself. Number 1, what does my health honestly look like? Number 2, how am I covering healthcare from 62 to 65 and what will it cost? Number 3, am I still working and does the earnings test affect my benefit? Number 4, do I need this income now or do I have other resources? Number 5, what does my spouse's survivor benefit situation look like? And number 6, what specifically do the go-go years fund and what's my plan B at 90? And some quick heuristics because I just like saying the word heuristics. Poor health or family history or shorter lifespans, I would lean towards 62. Strong health, long family history, high savings, lean 67 to 70. Higher earner with a spouse, seriously consider waiting for survivor benefit. Lower earner in a couple, often fine to take early while higher earner waits. Still working full time, The earnings test makes early claiming largely pointless anyway. Healthcare gap is unresolved. Solve that first, then revisit the Social Security question. Finally, don't give a dang about any of that and just want to live now after spending a life being told to defer joy. Take it 62, like me. Kidding, not kidding, but kidding. Do what works for you. After all that, here's where I land. The conventional wisdom, as I know you know, says to wait. Much of what I've gone over today says to wait. The math, on average, supports waiting. I understand that position, and I'm not dismissing it. Healthcare is expensive. You get docked if you're working, and many of us have to work past 62. All fantastic. But I think conventional wisdom consistently underweights the two most important pieces for me. Number one, the time value of experience. Your capacity to enjoy your life is not linear. It peaks, it declines. The go-go years are finite, and then they're gone. $1 deployed during those years returns something that $1 at 82 simply cannot. Not to mention, you get, in Perkins' language, a memory dividend every time you have an experience. And why wouldn't you want to enjoy the memory for longer? Second, certainty. A check that starts arriving at 62 is certain. A higher check at 70 requires you to A, survive until then, B, remain healthy enough to enjoy it, C, not need the money in the meantime. Not to mention, it relies on having no changes in the Social Security program. But, and I mean this, the healthcare gap is the variable that most cleanly separates people who can do this gracefully from people who can't. If you have a clean, affordable path from 62 to 65 on healthcare, early retirement and early Social Security becomes much more viable. If that gap is going to cost you $2,000 a month with no good options, it should and does change the math significantly. And the earnings test reminder is simply this. If you're going to keep working at meaningful income, you're not really taking Social Security early. You're just creating another headache. The benefit is largely going to be withheld. The actual decision point is the day you stop earning substantially, not the day you turn 62. Solve the healthcare question, understand the earnings test, run your actual break-even numbers, sit with these 6 questions, and then make the decision that's right for you, your actual life, not the decision that works for me or that looks best in a textbook that has never even met you. That's all I've got for today. Go to SSA.gov, pull your real benefit estimates, check out when you're going to die, price out your healthcare gap, and sit with the 6 questions. Again, if any of this was useful or you learned anything or just want to help the show grow, please consider leaving a review on Apple, Spotify. It takes 45 seconds and it helps support the show way more than you might know. Truly appreciated. Thank you all. As always, hope this gives you something to think about throughout the week ahead. Thanks for tuning in to your Money Guide on the Side. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to visit my website at tylergardner.com for even more helpful resources and insights. And if you are interested in receiving some quick and actionable guidance each week, don't forget to sign up for my weekly newsletter, where each Sunday I share 3 actionable financial ideas to help you take control of your money and investments. You can find the sign-up link on my website, tylergardner.com, or on any of my socials at socialcapofficial. Until next time, I'm Tyler Gardner, your money guide on the side, and I truly hope this episode got you one step closer to where you need to be.